There are primarily two things that I remember about the science writing class that I taught in the fall of 1996. One concerns the generosity of two of my colleagues, and the other concerns the audacious armor worn by one of my students in that science writing class. Hello. So, it was fall of 1996, my first full quarter as a faculty member at UC Davis. So of course I was assigned 3 classes, 3 different preps, 3 radically different subjects. One was English 45, close reading of poetry. Pretty much the topic of my dissertation. I was ready for that. The other, style in the essay, English 20. Oh, I was all about style. I could teach that class. The third I don't know that I was ready for. Writing in science. It was a pre-professional class for scientists. And I was barely qualified to teach that class. But Linda Bates wanted me to teach it. She said that she would give me her notes. She would give me her outlines. She would encourage me to use her materials. I said to her, Linda Bates, this is all helpful, but I have an idea. You're teaching this class on Fridays from 9 a.m. to noon. I'm teaching the same class on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10:30 until 11:50. How about I audit your writing and science class? I not only learn from your materials, but learn how you teach the topic. I take copious notes, and then I do my best impersonation of Linda Bates teaching science writing in the following week. So, Linda would teach a class on a Friday. I would decide how I would divide that same class into 2 parts and then teach it in the subsequent week on Tuesday and Thursday. And then Friday, the cycle would continue. It all worked out fine until Linda had to get unexpected surgery. Maybe this is TMI. Halfway through the quarter, and then my colleague Amy Clarke stepped in. Amy's just a few years older than me. She's one of the people who convinced me to consider retiring early, or at least when I still have my youthful energy. Thank you, Amy. So, I, with my background in acting, through my dad, acted like a prepared science writing professor on Tuesdays and Thursdays that quarter because of Linda Bates and Amy Clarke. And I was able to pull it off. You know who did not, now we're getting to the student part, you know who did not pull off her rugby gear before entering my science classroom? My student Dianna. Evidently they had practice, rehearsals, scrimmages in women's rugby just before my science writing class. Dianna was in this class. She had to rush to get to my class on time. And so she walked in really like a knight in armor. And not only was she well protected from my quips or raised eyebrows, but she was also noisy when she walked into the room. Because when you're sprinting across a field, playing rugby, as Dianna did, nobody notices the sounds that all of your gear is making. But when you step into 241 Olsen in the fall of 1996, everyone notices how noisy your rugby gear is. I was just reading about rugby at UC Davis in 1996. There was a women's rugby club which competed against other Northern California collegiate clubs. It was student-run with volunteer coaching, typical of the era, and it was separate from NCAA athletics, since women's rugby was not and still is not an NCAA championship sport. So Dianna deserves our further respect. Why? Not only did she come into class on time, and not only did she come into class fully armed, but she also didn't even have a paid coach for her women's rugby club. She was defending the honor of UC Davis against other women's rugby teams, and doing so, I'm sure, with great aplomb and multiple victories. Thank you, Dianna, for that wonderful image of you arriving as our rugby warrior. Thank you, Amy Clarke, for not pushing back against one of your youngest colleagues actually taking your science writing class when you stepped in for Linda Bates. Thank you, Linda Bates, dear departed Linda Bates, for directing the writing program that year and for giving me such juicy and varied teaching opportunities. I'm full of gratitude. In fact, this whole series is about 365 instances of gratitude directed mostly at Dr. Andy's students. My name is Dr. Andy. Thanks for tuning in to this particular video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time with another edition of Diary of a Quizmaster. Bye-bye.